Welcome. Again, my name is Nate Zielinski. This is all about Western big game scouting. Again, we're going to kind of start off here slow as we know everybody's just joining us. But again, welcome and thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you're bringing in right now. We always just say it, tag everybody in this, share this post. If you have buddies that maybe need some more help in that connection rate and being more successful, tag them in this. Bring them in. Let's ask all these questions. Let's answer the questions. It's all about getting you guys involved and getting your questions answered. So again, make sure we're going to start talking about pronghorn tonight. Also going to talk about, if we have some time, building a backup plan for that big game scouting, especially elk and mule deer. Having that plan A, B, and C. So we want to make sure we have that set up. But again, for everybody just signing in, we're now officially time. Again, my name is Nate Zielinski. We're going live from the Bowtech Archery page. Huge thanks to Bowtech for letting us take over this page, letting us go live, and providing the network to do it. So again, huge thanks to Bowtech. It's an honor to be a part of this. Also, we're going live from the Diamond Archery Facebook page, as well as Tightline Outdoors, right here local. Thank you so much for that and following. And the Nate Zielinski page. So again, guys, thank you so much for following us here. And again, it's all about you guys, the guests. I'm still kind of fighting that cold. I had it going on 2 weeks, so apologize about that. But again, it's all about you. So to start off, we want to talk about pronghorn. Over the last couple weeks on these feeds, we've had a lot of questions revolving pronghorn. Again, we're all about that Western big game chase, and there's no doubt pronghorn is becoming much more popular every year that it comes around for a lot of reasons. Number one, it is a great animal to hunt. It's fun. It's entertaining. And I don't want to say the success rate of the harvest is so much better, but the success rate of getting on some animals is so much better. We talked to so many people that are chasing big elk and chasing big mule deer that will hunt a year or 2 years or 3 years, don't do their scouting, and they have a hard time getting on those animals. Whether they're successful or not, they just want to chase some critters around. And that's where the pronghorn really excels. Generally speaking, these pronghorns are in wide open territory, so everybody going out there has a great chance of finding some animals, getting on some animals, putting some stalks on. So you feel successful because you're around the animals. And if you blow a hunt, generally speaking, you can go find another animal to chase. So again, the pronghorn is a very popular animal of choice now. The other big thing we love about pronghorn is, generally speaking, the season starts a little before all the other big game seasons. So you can usually get out there in early August, mid-August, get out there and do some hunting and really, work the tweaks out of everything, maybe before a big elk hunt or before a big hunt, or maybe that pronghorn is your big hunt. So regardless, it's a fun animal. We're going to walk you through all of that tonight. So everybody's listening. Again, I'm Nate Zielinski. We're coming live. Make sure you ask your questions. We're going to take questions here just a little while. So make sure you start commenting those questions. We'll definitely get those answered. With the pronghorn thing, again, we're talking about bow hunting. Everything that we're talking about tonight, you can definitely do with a rifle. But again, for me personally, the pronghorn is all about the bow hunt. It's so much fun, to get out there, chase these animals. And again, there's a lot of opportunities. I mean, depending on where you're coming from or where you live, there's a lot of these animals are going to live in the plains, live in the low country. But there's also a lot of mountain antelope. That's personally the tag that I have this coming fall is a mountain tag. I'm going to be hunting at 9,000, 9,500 feet for these pronghorns up in some high plains grasslands. So should be a fun hunt up there. The only problem with those high plains grasslands, the cover is about this tall. There's absolutely no place to hide, so it gets very frustrating to try to put a spot and stalk on these animals. So you're forced to do some of the things that we're going to talk about in this cast, in this live feed. So definitely join us here and walk us through it. So the first thing we're going to talk about, again, it's all about scouting. Everybody wants to be successful, but if you don't put your time in scouting, a lot of times that's going to reflect on the overall success that you have in the actual hunt this coming fall. So the number one thing I talk about is breaking down your grid. So when it comes to pronghorns, to me personally, it's all about the grid. So I like to pick a handful of animals. Let's say I have my top 3 or 4 bucks that I want to chase. Maybe they're unique, maybe they're big, maybe it's just the first couple of animals whatever the case may be. When I find a group or a couple animals that I'm interested in hunting this coming fall, I like to ask myself, how much territory do these animals cover? Whether that's from food to water or daily habits or maybe the migration over a couple months, how much territory do these animals cover? Most of the animals that I personally am watching, so the bucks that I'm watching now that I'm going to hunt this coming August, are covering right around a 3 to 4 mile grid. So if I watch these animals for 3 weeks over the course of 3 weeks, I see these animals doing, a big a slight migration of about 3 to 4 miles. That's the terrain in which I see them. There's a lot of people out there that are going to have a lot smaller grid than that. These animals might live in the same pasture every single day. We definitely see that. A lot of these Eastern Plains hunts, in Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, these guys are literally saying these animals don't leave a 300-acre patch, and that's definitely a possibility. Excuse me. Again, still kind of fighting that cold, so bear with me there. But a lot of these other animals are going to be in a much larger swath. Again, it's a 3 to 4 mile grid that these animals are moving around and walking. So that's the first thing I do through scouting is ask myself, how big is this grid, just so I have a rough idea of where these animals are going to go. Once you start to figure out that grid, you start to get a good idea of the daily migrations. That's when the next thing to come in is how you're going to hunt these animals. There's no doubt with archery equipment, probably the most successful and most tried and true method for harvesting these animals is to hunt water. Whether that's hunting a pond, hunting a small creek, literally hunting a ditch. Again, excuse me. Those are the opportunities that lead to being a successful water hole hunt. Now, the good and the bad of water, no matter what, most of these pronghorns are going to drink almost on a daily basis, if not every other day, but a lot of these animals will drink a couple times a day. So it's usually hot on the average pronghorn hunt, anywhere you're hunting in the regions. But with that said, you have to find the water which they're using. So I always try to find the main water source, the main hub for water, but I also want to make sure that I find literally every drip of water in that grid. And that's why it's important to have that grid that we're talking about, that 3 to 4 mile area. I want to make sure I know of all the water in that area to where I literally have a rough idea. I mean, all you have to do is drop a pin on a GPS. Use your phone. Drop a pin on the map on your phone of every little nook and cranny where these animals can drink. I mean, a lot of times it's a ditch on the road. Literally a little crater in the ground that these animals will be sitting on that will drink on. So when it comes to water, you have your main source, a main pond, the main water area, as well as all these little tiny spots around there. Now, with water, you have the option to do one of two things. You can commit to the hunt, so literally you can get in there well before light. You can set up on a blind, whether it's a pop-up blind or a ground blind that you're building, and you can commit to that main water source wherever you think they're coming, and you can sit there all day and wait for these animals to come to you. Sometimes they drink at first light, sometimes it's midday. It's really up to you, in particular animals, your individual animals, to know exactly when these animals are drinking, when you should best be set up on those animals. Me personally, I have a hard time committing to the hunt. We talked about that in the very first live feed we did a month ago. I'm all about that opportunity. I hate to commit to something that I don't know is necessarily going to happen. So for me, hunting this water, the main thing I do is I let it get light out. So I get up there in this actual hunting season, and I let it get light, and I know where all the water is. I know where the main water source is. I know where all these small individual little pockets of water are. And I wait till it gets light, and I actually throw up my binos, throw up my spotting scope, and I glass around. Glass is a huge important in this. I mean, you got to have good optics. So you're going to glass around, you're going to find these animals, and you're going to tell yourself, okay, this animal is within this, section, and I know that the closest water is a half mile in this direction or a quarter mile in this direction. And I actually get a good idea of where the animals are at and where they might be heading, and then I run over to that water source and I set up on that water source. Hopefully I'll have ground blinds or blinds set up on most of these so these animals don't get weary as they come into it. But a lot of times for me personally, instead of committing well before light and just sitting on a water hole and hoping they show, a lot of times I wait till it's light and I find these animals. I wait to see a direction that they're going, and then I scurry over there and set up. So that's kind of the approach to that. The main story of this, again, we're not going to set up on that hunt until it's actually hunting season. But it's up to you right now through scouting is to try to find out every little water hole that's out there. I mean, whether it's a dry time right now and you don't have water and you're going to get rain later in the season, or some of these are going to dry up, you're now trying to learn that terrain and try to figure out a good idea of every tiny drop of water in the grid in which you're hunting. Again, it falls back on that grid. But the grid in which you're hunting to where you have a good idea come hunting season, hey, I got this whole map laid out. Here's all the options for water. I'm going to be successful in that manner. Now, I got a lot of comments on the last time we did a live feed for this right here. I use my hands. You can see I'm an active person. I'm always on the go. I never sit still. I mean, it's amazing I can ever kill anything because I'm so moving around. The odds of me sitting on a water hole are slim to none. I literally sit down on a bucket. Number one, I'm scared to death of snakes, so I'm always worried something's going to come into my ground blind. But number two, I don't have the patience to generally sit and wait for these animals to come in. I can do it if it absolutely is going to make me successful, which a lot of times it does. So there's a lot of times where I will try to overcome that activeness and that moving that I have to be successful. But there's other styles of being successful for these pronghorns that lead to a lot of success as well. And those are the other things we're going to talk about. And a lot of these are the things that might not necessarily be as mainstream that everybody's talking about. So I'm going to walk you through the entire list of ways that I've been successful in harvesting pronghorns throughout the years. So the number one thing comes back to a little bit of sitting and kind of rolls back on the concept of waiting for animals to come to you. But if you've been around pronghorns enough, you know anything about them, you know that they can definitely jump fences, but 9 times out of 10, these animals go under barbed wire fences. It's very rare for these animals to go up and over. In a severe situation, if the fence is too low or they're in a major panic, they'll go up and over. But 9 times out of 10, these animals are always going to cross under the barbed wire fence. So I go to the areas in which I'm hunting, whether it's I have access on both sides of the property, I'm hunting public. I love to walk and watch fence lines. And what I'm doing is I'm looking for trails in which lead under a fence. I'm looking for pieces of hair stuck on barbed wire. I'm really studying the fence lines to try to figure out where these animals are crossing. And if I have a certain area that these animals like to go through, let's say I have, a 300-yard stretch where it seems like they're crossing every couple days in given spots. The one trick that I do is I take a piece of wire with me. Say you take some baling wire, and I actually tie up that bottom ring of barbed wire. So that bottom string of wire, I'll pull it up 6, 7 inches, 8 inches. I mean, literally all you're doing is just pulling it up just a little bit to make it easier on these pronghorns to cross. So literally, carry some wire with you, find an area which they're crossing, suck that wire up. I mean, barely anything. 6, 8, 10 inches to make it easier on them to cross under. And all of a sudden, within a week, 2 weeks, you will have a severe game trail going under that piece of wire that you pulled up. It's unbelievable how they will literally seek out that tiny little minute detail and they'll start crossing there. So again, I'll find this area, tie up that wire. Once they start using it, I love to go by the biggest fence post within the capable distance that I can shoot and build a small ground blind. I don't get crazy. I don't get extravagant. You don't want to build a Marriott on this fence line, but I take some sticks with me, I take wood, and I build a very small ground blind right near a large fence post near that area in which I'm letting these animals cross. And you literally can go there and the daily routine. You can set up a trail cam if it's available and legal in your area, and you can sit up on that tied up barbed wire, and it is a fantastic way to build your own pattern and be successful. So again, instead of trying to find every water hole, try to make that mainstay trail, and it will make you successful. So again, small trick like that works fantastic and puts a lot of animals on the ground. The next thing we're going to talk about is probably my favorite, and that's the use of decoys. Now, we use decoys for 2 situations. If you're in an area where these pronghorns are starting to rut, so you're getting that rut activity, you can put up a doe or a buck decoy to try to draw those other bucks in. You're trying to pull in those does, or you're trying to make aggression and get that buck to come in to fight this other buck. But you can use pronghorn decoys, and you can really have good success. I mean, you can set off a distance, and these pronghorns will literally run, and I mean, they cover ground quickly, and they get very agitated, and they get very grumpy when they see these other pronghorns in the area. And they're not used to them being around there. So you can set up these pronghorn decoys, and these other animals will come in screaming, and it's a great way to be successful. The problem is you have to have some rut activity to be successful with that. A lot of times, especially in the early portion of these seasons, the rut's not taking place yet, and the actual pronghorn decoys are not going to be as successful just for the fact that you don't have enough rut activity basically in the given area. So rut activity, the pronghorn decoys work great. No rut activity, we go more with other style decoys, more as a distraction and a spotting and stalking tool. Now, you're starting to see it more familiar. A lot of times you'll hear your grandpa did this or other people in your family. Excuse me. Possibly they used a cow decoy. The biggest thing you hear this is the waterfowl world. So many of these guys, back in the day, or these old timers, used to jump sloughs and jump ponds. Again, excuse me. So these guys used to jump shoot waterfowl. So they used to cut out these giant cow boards out of a full sheet of plywood. They would literally cut out a cow shape, 4 foot by 8 foot, spray paint it like a cow, and literally walk up to these sloughs and ponds with this cow decoy and jump shoot waterfowl. We took that concept, threw it into the pronghorn world, and it's unbelievable how much these animals will literally let you walk up within archery distance and shoot these animals. I mean, it's unbelievable. So again, we go down, buy a piece of masonite, real thin drywall, cut out the shape of a cow, cut out the legs, cut out the body, the ears, make it as realistic as you possibly can. Give it a quick airbrush. Whether you have a airbrush, you can get about the and the spray can, the rattle can. Paint up a cow. Personally, with the livestock in your area. So you have cattle, you have horses, you have buffalo, whatever's around the area in which you're hunting. I would paint your decoy like that animal. I also kind of make it like a shield. So I usually have some sort of piece of hosing or a strap that I can slide my arm through, so I can literally carry this giant decoy or this silhouette on my arm, and you can literally sneak, drop your shoulders, and you can walk up very slow. Again, it's not something high pace. You're not running up to these animals. You look at livestock in the natural world. I mean, a cow moves, grazes for a little bit, walks, grazes, walks. So it's a slow process. But through this slow process, you can walk up to a lot of these different pronghorns, set it down, let them kind of drop their head. Once they kind of they'll forget about the livestock, you can draw and usually just set to the side of that silhouette or your decoy of whatever animal you painted, and you can take the shot. So literally, we call them cow boards, but you can take a affiliated decoy to the animals in the natural area in which you're hunting, and be overwhelmingly successful. So again, we have these set up like cows. We have them set up like buffaloes. I mean, there's a million different animals that we've imitated over the years, depending on where we're hunting and what the natural livestock or natural animals are in that area. And it's crazy how you can be successful with that. So again, if you're like me, you can't sit still. That's a great way to spot and stalk. Instead of trying to find them in a ditch and try to hike the ditch and trying to sneak up in usually the minimal terrain that's in that area, get yourself a decoy like that, something that they're used to seeing on a daily basis, and you can walk up and harvest these animals. So again, it's been very, very successful. Definitely give it a try. Now, as we get more unorthodox, a few things that we've tried that have definitely worked over the years. Number one, especially if you have a slight rise, you have some sort of terrain, difference out there. So you have a high spot, a low spot. You can literally take two different items. You can take a white flag or take a mirror. But you can literally set up one of these objects. You can wave a white flag, especially if you have a buddy with you. Have a buddy drop back 100 yards, just where the animals can't see, over a bluff, in a little ditch. And you can wave a large white flag, almost like you're surrendering. And these pronghorns will see it from a distance. It's not fast. They don't come running in. But they literally, curiosity kills the cat. They get so interested in what that is, they'll start to panic and they start to walk up to check it out. Now, again, for me personally, one of my favorite things is a mirror. You set up a big silver shiny mirror in a ditch on top of a hill, somewhere where they can just see it, but it's not visible enough to where they next point and say, oh, I know what that is. They just want that shimmer, and these animals will keep seeing this shimmer from a distance, and again, curiosity gets the best of them, and they'll come in to check out what that is, and oftentimes presenting yourself with the shot. The last thing that we do that has also been very effective over the years, especially if you have these ditches or, again, these low points where you can kind of somewhat hide, making a lot of noise. You can do a predator call. You can bang pots and pans together. I'm not saying it works every time, but you definitely get those certain animals that, again, curiosity gets the best of them. You make some, foreign noise, make some rattles. Do it for a little while. Stop. And these animals will be poking up. They'll kind of be interested, and they'll kind of get closer, check it out. Again, eventually, again, not overcalling, but using different foreign noises, you can pull these animals in and be very successful. I mean, you talk to the average rancher. Again, try it in your area. Try to call me a liar. Go talk to the average rancher or, the cattleman in your area. They'll be out working on a tractor. They'll have the radio on their truck on, and all of a sudden, longhorns are right there on top of their truck wondering what they're doing. Again, a very, very curious animal. So again, you can set yourself up, set those foreign noises, maybe try the white flag with those, the mirror. Again, curiosity is a great way to harvest pronghorns, especially in areas where you have low terrain. So again, for me, personally, I'm all about the decoy. I love walking up with the decoy. So a silhouette decoy, something in that area works fantastic. Hunting on water, if you're more traditional, you want that normal style hunt. Again, they have to drink. It's very successful. Just have to have some patience lined up with that. The last thing for the people that are active with the livestock in their area, whether it's on your own ranch or you know the current rancher, you know the landowner. Utilizing the livestock in that area can be absolutely phenomenal. So whether you want to, let's say, hey, you have a horse or access to a horse, you can ride a horse, and most cases, you can literally ride right up to the pronghorn in which you're hunting. I mean, you get on a horse, whatever reason, the second they see those other animals around, it's natural. Used to seeing these in the fields in which they're living. It's a part of their daily routine and a part of their daily life. So you can really get on a horse and a lot of times ride literally right up within 40, 50 yards of these big pronghorn and take a shot. If you're not comfortable riding the horse, you can usually lead a horse or lead livestock. I mean, sometimes it's cattle, sometimes it's horses. I mean, it could be a mule, a donkey, whatever's in the area that these animals are used to seeing. You can literally grab, lead them. Maybe have a handful of sugar cubes or whatever you have to be the donkey or horse whisperer. But you can literally get these animals, lead them, and walk right up to the pronghorn and oftentimes take that shot. So again, the moral of the story, thinking outside the box often leads to more and successful hunts when it comes to pronghorns in your area. So again, guys, we're going to take some questions here just shortly if we have some. If not, we're also going to start going into our planning A, B, and C for our big game hunts, especially with the twist of elk and deer. But real quick, if you're just joining us now, my name is Nate Zielinski. We are coming live from the Bowtech Archery page, the Diamond Archery page, the Diamond or the Bowtech website, as well as Tightline Outdoors and the Nate Zielinski Facebook page. Again, that's a new page. So if you're watching this, go check out Nate Zielinski on Facebook. Like that page, you'll start getting more useful tips, hints, things like that to make you more successful, both in the fishing and hunting world. So again, we're going to take a couple of questions here real quick, and then we're also going to move on to our other planning for our Western big game. But again, share your questions. If you have questions about anything hunting related, comment in these posts. We would love to answer your questions, as well as tag your friends. You have that buddy that needs some help, or you have a buddy that you're a hunting enthusiast, your hunting partner. Share it, tag it, get them involved here, and we would definitely take those questions. So, Devin, we got any questions?
We do. What is your favorite broadhead to use? And this doesn't have to necessarily be pronghorn specific, but maybe across the board. What do you like to use?
Absolutely. Guys, we've actually been getting this question a lot. We're going to have a whole broadhead segment coming up in actually a couple weeks. But the comment and the topic of broadheads, it's wide variety. And there's no doubt right now in this day and age, we have got better broadheads than we've ever had in history. But we've also got more options of broadheads than we've ever had in history. So technology has definitely hit this industry. So it really comes down to personal preference and what you're about. And I would hate to say it, but it's also all about the bow in which you're shooting. So I know there's people on here that might not be shooting a bow tech. The reason I personally shoot a bow tech, I want that tunability. It's all about the smart bow for me. I want to make sure that I can shoot any head I want. I want to shoot any arrow I want, and I want to make sure I can tune my bow to shoot that arrow and shoot that head. And I can do that with the smart bow technology. And that's the great idea behind the most tunable and adjustable bow on the market. But I know you guys don't want to hear the infomercial, but that's literally what it comes down to. I want to shoot any head I can. A lot of us have to shoot a certain head due to the bow in which you're shooting that day. So again, whatever brand it is, you might not have a bow that allows that. So break it down to your situation. I personally am shooting all about the technology, shooting the smart bow, so I can shoot whatever head I got, or whatever head I want, I should say. For me, I'm old school. I guided elk hunts for 10 years. I've been a part right of about 220 elk kills in my career as a guide and overall hunting and promoting. I've seen a lot of elk and deer go down, literally dozens and dozens of pronghorn with a bow, bears, mountain lions, moose, sheep, mountain goats. We've seen it all happen. For me personally, again, coming from an old school kind of tradition, I am all about a fixed head, but more importantly, a cut on contact head. So I am all about that first piercing shot being extremely vital and extremely devastating. I want to make sure that in the perfect world, all broadheads are going to make the kill. But let's face it, things happen. We don't necessarily all make the perfect shot. We hit a rib, we hit a limb, we glance off of something. Things happen, and you don't necessarily always make that perfect shot. In this situation that you don't have that perfect shot, I want to make sure that I have the most lethal broadhead out there. So for me, it's all about a fixed head, number one, but two, it's about a cut on contact. One of my favorites out there that I've shot for years and years is like a Magnus Stinger. But again, for me, it's all about that fixed head. I'm not a mechanical guy. Now, I know everybody's watching this, especially a lot of people that are the hardcore whitetail hunters. Mechanicals have come so far since I personally have shot them years and years ago. Again, they're devastating. They open the hugest wound. They fly amazing out of almost every bow out there. It's just not me. I'm not saying that they're bad. I'm not saying they're wrong. If you have a great mechanical head that you shoot and you like, continue shooting it. I'm not bad-mouthing it. For me personally, it's all about that cut-on contact head, and it's all about that fixed blade. I want a strong head. I want to be able to smash, through bones, through ribs, come out the other side and keep flying. That I have as much power and as much strength in that head as I possibly can without having foul-ups. Again, we know that there's a lot of great mechanicals out there. For me personally, anything mechanical can have failures. I mean, anything we own, whether it's a vehicle or, a washing machine, anything that you own that's mechanical, at some point can or will break. It's just what happens. It's the nature of the beast. So if I can eliminate as many problems as I possibly can, the more successful I will be at the end of the day. So again, I don't care if your mechanical shoots literally flawlessly 999 times, 1,000, but if that one time it fails and it's on a big pronghorn or a big bull, on a big mule deer, on a big brown bear, whatever the case may be, if it fails that once and that's the one hunt that's important to you and you lose an animal or you miss an animal, it's a failure. So again, if I can eliminate any of the issues by using a fixed head and a cut-on contact head to where literally the second that arrow touches and that broadhead hits, it is slicing and it is bleeding, the more successful I'm going to be. So again, we're going to have a whole topic coming up here about broadheads later on, probably about 3 to 4 weeks away. We're talking nothing but broadheads the entire show. But for me, again, for everybody out there who's been asking that question, for me personally, it's all about the fixed head, cut-on contact. Again, not bad-mouthing mechanicals, but for me, I'm all about reliability, and I can definitely say that I am old school as far as that goes. But you look at those big fixed heads, a lot of guys have a hard time shooting them because there's no doubt it's a big plane, it waves, it flies. It can be a rough flying head, but it all comes back to the tunability of your bow and making sure that you can adjust literally everything about that bow. I mean, nock travels and make sure it can shoot the head of your choice. So again, it's all about that fixed contact head, and it's very successful for me. We'll do one more question here from Devin, and then we're going to move on to our building our plans A, B, and C. Again, we want to get to this, guys. We got a lot of questions, but we want to make sure we get to that here before we have to run out of time.
What about scents when we're stalking pronghorn? Can urine come into play, sort of like it might for whitetail or
Absolutely.
for elk?
So, yeah, talking scents and pronghorn. Again, like we talked about earlier, almost with the pronghorn decoys, it's going to come back 100% to the rut situation. So if you are early in the season, that first archery rut's not taking place yet, it's not going to do any good. I mean, literally, you jump ahead and these animals immediately know you're phony. You know what I mean? If you're way pre-rut and you're pretending you're in the rut, all these antelope and pronghorns are going to be like, what's that guy doing? Did he not get the memo? It's not happening yet. And you can hurt yourself. But if the rut is taking place, absolutely. And a lot of times, I will try to enhance the trails in which we're talking about. So I'll pull up that wire and I will set some scent down there, especially the doe scent, just where those bucks think that those does are commonly using that trail, so they're more often to come check that. Same as water holes. You have that pond, that creek, that area in which they're drinking from. You can put that doe scent around those water holes, and hopefully these bucks thinking that these does are more gathering there at certain times of the day, so they'll more frequently come check. And frequently really is the key word there, to where if they use that trail once, twice a day, if you can increase that to 4 or 5 times a day, or they're drinking once a day, maybe they'll come check out that water hole 3, 4 times a day where they're looking for does. It can definitely increase your odds as a hunter. So pre-rut, post-rut, don't use scent, don't care about it, don't like it. Rut situation, use it, like it. Even if it just does nothing more than build your confidence, I think it will help you out to be more successful. So again, guys, that's our wrap for our pronghorn talk. Again, we appreciate the questions. I know a lot of people were asking about pronghorn leading up to this. So again, that is our pronghorn talk. Now, really quick here, we're going to wrap up the rest of this live feed talking about our more elk and mule deer, especially with a big focus on elk. A lot of people have been watching this. A lot of people have been listening to this. We're in our scouting right now. We're spending a lot of time prepping for this upcoming season. We all know our tags. We're learning the areas. And over here in the next about 2 weeks, we're going to switch over and actually start watching animals. But if you've joined us in the last couple of weeks, you know we've been talking about building the key 3 features to a successful hunt. It's all about knowing the bedding, it's all about knowing the food, and it's all about knowing the water. If you know the relationship between food, bedding, and water, you're going to literally have a slam dunk hunt, because all you have to do is put yourself in that right situation to be successful. So again, it's all about that relationship, food, bedding, water. Now, when we're talking about our plan A, B, and C, this is where it gets important. When I do my scouting, I'm going to have my area that I'm using Google Earth, I'm in the field, and I find this dark, nasty timber, which I know is a great area for bedding. Then I find these nice grassy hillsides and grassy valleys that I know are going to hold good green grass, for almost all summer and all fall. They have some protection, some shade, where they're not going to get burned up in the sun, but yet they have enough sunlight to grow and stay rich. So it's a good food source. Then maybe you say you have a creek or a pond or a wallow. When you find those key areas where you have good bedding, good grass, a couple spots for water, that's a perfect situation to build that relationship with these animals as they go between the 3 and be successful. Now, the problem here is I see so many hunters, literally on a daily basis or annual basis, I should say, that find these awesome areas. They scout, they figure out the animals, and all of a sudden, opening day, people come from out of state, people come from the nearest town they're hunting in, and they go in here and they find this little honey hole of yours, and they blow the animals out. And so many times these hunters are totally lost. I mean, it's like they're balloon popped. They don't know what to do. I mean, they throw in the towel and they give up. They just aimlessly walk around because their plan got ruined. Let's face it, it happens. It probably happens more often than any of us want to admit. So throughout this scouting process, I like to have a plan A, B, and C for every spot I hunt. It's not like I just have plan A, B, and C for the whole unit, for the whole zone I'm hunting for the whole season. I like to have an A, B, and C for every area or little sub-zone in which I'm hunting. So I have a nice valley or an area in which I'm hunting. I find those key ingredients, food, water, bedding. And then maybe a half mile away or a mile away, up canyon, down canyon to the side, I find another area that's just process. If I have a good bull in this area, or, good animals in this area, work in this area, and they get blown out, where do they go? So I ask myself that. If they get blown out of here, the road, the highway, the access point, the trail is down here. If they get pushed out, more than likely they're going to go away from that. Where do they go? So I look at the maps. I find the next suitable habitat for those animals, and I assume that's my backup B spot. Let's say this hunter that blew them out of spot A sees them going to B, and he goes and pushes them again. They end up in spot C. Very rarely does the average person blow 3 spots. They usually blow 2, but not 3. So throughout scouting, I want to make sure that I have literally zone A, B, and C. I want to have those plans. Every area that I hunt, I have spot 1, spot 2, and spot 3. Again, I don't have 3 spots overall. I might have 15 hunts planned. I have 15 drainages that I like to go to. I have 15 areas in which the zone I'm hunting, and for each area, I have 3 spots. So as these animals move, as they get blown out, as conditions change, these animals are just going to move to that next area, and I don't miss a beat. That's what it's all about, not missing that beat. So again, I go in here, these animals get flushed, something happens, they booger up. Instead of putting my head down and walking back to my truck, and throwing a tantrum because my spot got ruined, I immediately say, okay, I've been scouting this, I know that they're in plan B, let's get down here, our wind's still good, and let's get up in that area and get right back on these animals. Again, if you have a plan, anything is possible. Again, you don't want that frustration. You don't want those surprises. So right now, I know in scouting, even if you're watching this podcast and you're going to get on Google Earth right now, look at the areas in which you're hunting and ask yourself, if those animals move for any reason, where do they go? Figure out where they go and have options. So as these animals move, you can just roll right back into it. You don't miss a beat. You get right on these animals again, and you're successful on your average hunt. So guys, again, that's what it's all about, building that plan A, B, and C. And we're going to talk more about this next weekend, or next week, next Monday, as we continue on with our scouting. We're going to put a little bit more focus on mule deer next weekend for that first 10, 15 minutes. Then we're going to go right back into our main focus of elk as we go forth. Again, right now it's still all about the land. We're learning the food, we're learning the water, we're learning all about the terrain, the access points. And coming up here in about the next 2 to 3 weeks, we start to put a big focus on the animals themselves. We're going to start to see antler growth. We're going to start to see what's dominant. We're going to start to see rough ideas of our cow-calf population as they're all hitting the ground right now as we speak. So again, over the next couple weeks, a lot of things are changing. You have to keep up with your scouting and make sure you're on top of all that knowledge. So again, guys, before we go, we have a couple more announcements. It's an absolutely big day for all the live feeds. Again, coming in here at 7 p.m., you have Chef Collins. Again, Chef Collins, a great thing. It's all about getting these animals and bringing them right to the kitchen. We also got Randy Newberg coming in at 10 p.m. Again, guys, this guy is the elk hunting master. So make sure you have Randy Newberg. But right now, the most important thing of the entire night, tomorrow, we are launching 2 brand new diamond bows. So again, 2 brand new diamond bows hit the market. If you want to be the first one with this intel, you want the sneak peek, make sure you write this down. You are going to text the word launch. Literally, text the word launch to 313131. So again, 313131. You just got to do 3 3 1s. Text the word launch to that number, 313131, and the second these bows launch, you will get all that information coming straight to your phone. And I'll tell you what, these new bows are absolutely incredible. I've seen them firsthand. Again, you're going to absolutely love them. So make sure you text the word launch to 313131. Again, guys, I am Nate Zielinski coming to you live, and a huge thanks to Bowtech for letting us take over their live feed. Again, thanks to Bowtech. You also saw you on the Diamond Archery page, the Bowtech Facebook page, the Tightline Outdoor page, and the Nate Zielinski page. Make sure you go find Nate Zielinski. Give us a like on that Facebook page. Again, we will see you next Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific. Again, join us here. It's all about scouting and making you more successful this coming fall. Guys, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Bring your questions in.